There is a slice of Utah that is cut off from the rest of the state by two of its mightiest rivers and by miles of some of the densest canyon terrain in the country. This is a region that I like to call the San Juan Wedge, and I believe that it is one of the most remote places left, not only in Utah, but the lower 48 United States. In this video, I am barely going to scratch the surface of this place by backpacking over 30 miles to get to a canyon that was once blocked off by the waters of Lake Powell. With the rapidly receding lake level, it is now possible for me to access miles of previously drowned canyon by foot. This trip will give me a first-hand view of the rich geologic and cultural history of this area, and it will also highlight how quickly it is changing in our current time. The side canyons of Lake Powell here at the San Juan Wedge may be some of the only places in America that are becoming more remote with time. And this is not because of legislative designations or conservation efforts, but because of Mother Nature herself. Welcome. My name is Landon, and I'm about to go backpacking, but before I can do that, I actually have to get to the canyon I want to backpack in. So currently I'm sitting in front of this sign that says no services for the next 121 miles. And this road here is one of the only roads that actually provides access to this San Juan Wedge region. And no services for 121 miles is a really hard thing to find in the United States. For now, I have about 2 hours of driving ahead of me to get to the entrance of the canyon that I want to backpack in. So let's get driving. Before I get to hiking, let's take a deep dive into the complex geography of the San Juan Wedge. Now, this isn't a predefined area. In a sense, I have identified it purely for this video series. The wedge isn't remote because of something like a wilderness designation or a lack of roads within the area. It is remote because of the geographic barriers that have kept it isolated and difficult to reach even in the interconnected world of the 21st century. The main barriers are the Colorado and San Juan River canyons, which border the south and west sides of this region. The closest bridges across these canyons are at Height and Mexican Hat. The creation of Lake Powell made many remote side canyons more accessible to Lake Powell boaters, but this is quickly changing as Lake Powell reaches dangerously low levels. On the east side, the mighty Comb Ridge and Abajo Mountains present a major geographic barrier to enter the wedge. These days, you can drive right through the Comb Ridge, but historically, this massive 80-mile wall of sandstone was nearly impassable, except for a small Native American path at the southern end. To the north, the rugged, dark canyon separates the popular Needles district of Canyonlands National Park from the San Juan Wedge. To get into the wedge from the north, you would have to traverse rough mountain dirt roads for hours to bypass Dark Canyon and make it into the region. So, what are these immense natural barriers shielding from the outside world? Well, the interior of the San Juan Wedge holds many rugged and beautiful places. On the east side is the Cedar Mesa, which is a vast pinyon juniper plateau filled with hundreds of canyons. This is by far the most popular section of the region, but by Utah standards, it is still very quiet. In the north, just below Dark Canyon, is the very desolate Fry Canyon region, which holds many slot canyons, high mesas, and very little human activity outside of ranchers and the occasional canyoneer. In the point of the wedge, where I will be, there are many high plateaus of Navajo sandstone, such as the Mancos Mesa. The upper reaches of the canyons of the Mancos Mesa that are realistically only accessible via Lake Powell are probably some of the hardest places to reach in the entire state. I will be targeting one of these canyons, but because I don't have a boat, I chose a different, less conventional route to enter. The road I mentioned at the beginning is Highway 95, which is the only paved entry to the region. You can also technically enter at Hall's Crossing, but this ferry is almost always closed now due to the low Lake Powell water level. For its entirety, there are absolutely no services along this road. After you leave Blanding, Utah, you need to drive all the way to Hanksville, Utah, before you can see some semblance of civilization.
which is pretty much just a gas station and a rock wall. There are no major settlements in the entire wedge, which is an area the size of Delaware, a state which over 1 million people call home. Only a couple ranchers call this place home. Now that we have a better understanding of the San Juan Wedge, let's see what it's really like in person.
Okay, I'm all packed up and ready to go. I'm currently way out in the middle of the San Juan Wedge. So, like I said, I'm trying to backpack in a canyon, right? Well, unfortunately, that canyon is way over there. So for the first part of my journey, I get to walk several miles across this flat, sandstone, sandy plain. Here we go. This is kind of what I'm going to be walking across for the next couple of hours until I reach the edge of the canyon. And honestly, this isn't too bad. Walking on hard sandstone does make your feet hurt, but I'm hoping I'll be able to get off it quick enough that that won't start to happen. I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty nervous for this journey for 2 reasons. For one, it's my first time solo backpacking. I've never gone on a journey like this by myself. And then for 2, since I'm solo backpacking, and since I'm in such a remote area, I'm probably not going to see a single person for over 4 days. Never done that. I don't know what it's gonna be like to only have myself for company for 4 days. Wow, look at these yuccas. They're completely buried by the sand. It's kind of weird. Must have shifted recently.
As I walked over this plain of sandstone, I couldn't help but feel like this was the most wild, wild west place I'd ever seen. Something about the mountains in the distance, and not a semblance of modern civilization in sight, made it feel like I was walking straight through an old western.
So you might be wondering, how are you going to get in this canyon? Aren't there going to be giant cliff walls guarding the edge? And the answer is yes, there are giant cliff walls throughout this entire canyon, which is what's going to make it so pretty. But I did my research. Now out here, it is so remote and not really popular with outdoor recreation to the point where there's almost no trails. It's not really anything established outside of kind of ATV trails. But I went searching on Google Earth and I found a side canyon that was completely filled up with sand. I was like, that's where I'm gonna enter. I'm gonna go down that sand dune all the way to the bottom of the canyon. I should be coming up on it soon. We'll see if it's actually doable. Okay, it worked. The plan worked. That's the edge of the canyon. This should be a giant cliff, but as you can see, the dunes go right up to the edge and I just hopped down and now I am on this giant, giant sand field that is hopefully gonna lead all the way to the river. And now, right now where I'm standing, it's nice and chill and flat, but I think it's gonna reach a crest here in a sec and just plummet down. So I'm hoping it's a reasonable grade where I can just assume that I can get back up, because I do have to exit this way as well. Whoa. Wow. That's kind of scary. Now that I'm standing here, I'm wondering if sand avalanches are a thing. Part of me really wants to just run down this sand field, but the other part of me is like, what if a giant wall of sand follows you? Woohoo! Okay, it seems as though sand avalanches are pretty chill.
This is so fun. It's getting deep. Wow. I just waltzed to the bottom of a 1,000-foot canyon. It's incredible. It's so steep you can't even see where I started. That's crazy. Now my shoes are full of sand. But here's the canyon, as I expected. Pretty choked with brush. So I think I might put my sandals on and get wet because it's nice and warm finally. My two main goals are just to explore this canyon and to reach Lake Powell. Lake Powell's water levels are currently at 24% of full pool, which is just 2% off of the lowest recorded level ever. So there should be a lot of new canyon for me to explore that is re-emerging and hasn't been exposed very often in the past 50 years. So I got the Tevas on, and it's nice, smooth walking in the stream bed. I just gotta keep my eye out for quicksand because Austin and I discovered that the corners of the canyons the sediment doesn't consolidate as well and you can just sink in, and that's a little bit scary. So I'm just gonna be extra careful around those, but on the straights, it's nice and solid. And honestly, if these conditions keep up, this is gonna be a heavenly walk through here. So I'm at one of said corners right now, and there's a dead cow that looks to be halfway submerged in it. So I don't know if that's why it died, but yeah, pretty unfortunate. Also, there's just the fact that it's lying in the water that I would like to drink, ideally. So one of the things I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for while I'm walking are the remnants of the ancient communities that used to live in these canyons. So I imagine a lot of you guys know about Bears Ears and the immense amount of ancient history that is preserved there. But all those communities that lived in Bears Ears also lived in Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, or what is now Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. To them, it was all one continuous landscape that they lived among and moved among. That certainly looks like it was chewed up by a beaver. That'd be pretty interesting to see a beaver in the desert. There's water dripping from this wall. There's just a ton of springs out here because all this Navajo sandstone is very porous. So when it rains or when you put a giant lake in the middle of it, the water seeps into it and then eventually it hits a harder layer and comes out at these springs. Really glad I just looked left right when I did. Oh, there's something on top of the cliff too. This is gonna be exciting. Just climbed on up here and there is stuff everywhere. Little, probably granaries where they would have stored their food. I don't know, this thing on the cliff though might be a habitation structure. Holy smokes, this thing is huge. Way bigger than I thought. Jeez. There's not really much mortar in the walls, it just seems to be stacked rock. So this structure and the ones down below were likely built by the ancestral Puebloans about 1,000 years ago when they would have inhabited this canyon. They were abandoned shortly after, and other communities did live in here, but they didn't build structures like this, so that's how we know who built them. So I went back down and came up the backside here so I could get a different angle of it. And I'm kind of confused, honestly. There's like this big wall, but then I don't really know what the structure was because, I don't know. They all kind of connect, but in this weird way. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, definitely got some weather coming in. Those are rain clouds. I'm gonna be careful and try not to get wet. Yeah, this was forecasted. It said it was gonna be gone by tomorrow, so hopefully that is the case. Check this out, guys.
I could just barely make it out with the naked eye. Took a photo, so hopefully be able to zoom that in later for you guys. I don't even know what they are. Are they like lizards? Dancing people? I don't know. There has to be a beaver living here. This tree looks pretty alive, like it just fell. And all of the ends are gnawed on. I always forget that beavers can actually live out in these desert streams as well. And I don't think they build dams as often out here, but they certainly have enough food with all these willows, so it makes sense. Okay, never mind. I take back what I said about them not building dams. I'm pretty sure this is a beaver pond. Yeah, would you look at that? It's like a double dam. Got a good sized pool going here. There's even some ducks out there. Here's the lodge. Wow. So here's the dam. And then the lodge. Unfortunately, I'm not going to camp close to here, so I probably won't see the beavers because they usually come out in the evening. They're crepuscular. So that's really exciting because that highlights something that I was going to talk about soon, is that once Lake Powell recedes, or as Lake Powell is receding, plants and animals are going to move in to use that space. And I wouldn't be surprised if this beaver population here moves downstream as Lake Powell recedes, because there's going to be more willows growing down there soon. You see this? This is a beaver slide where they grab their sticks and then they go slide into their pond right here. That's what that is. Jeez. Might be the prettiest place for a beaver dam I've ever seen. Got even more ruins up there. Some more grainers, it looks like. Hey, check this out. Just caught a red-spotted toad. Or at least I think that's what this is. So these guys are native to these riparian corridors in the desert. They're pretty cool. I almost stepped on them. It's lucky I didn't. All right, back you go. Oh, okay, that works. I believe I've just reached the previous extent of Lake Powell, because on my map right now, if I pull up my phone and look on my map, I'm literally inside Lake Powell on my map. Okay, the storm is really picking up now. I actually brought my tent this time, so if it rains, that's all right. I just kind of want to get the tent up before it starts raining. Holy, this is crazy, guys. That is, oh my God. That's a magnificent wall. It's just straight. It's just straight down. It's incredible. Oh yeah, here's the wind. That's really cold. It barely fits in the GoPro frame while it's on wide mode. So this fin here is what separates the canyon I just came from and the canyon that would have been previously blocked off to me while Lake Powell was full, because I would be under about 20 feet of water right now. Now I just need to figure out where I want to set up my camp, because pretty much anywhere here would work. Everything I'm standing on here was deposited by Lake Powell, so it's not really a big deal to camp on it. Okay, I'm surveying and I think I want to camp right there. That spot looks nice. got the tent completely set up. This is gonna be my home for the next 3 days, and it's a pretty amazing spot. Could not be happier with that. Yeah, we got last light in the day. I'm gonna make some dinner for this evening. Often the time I spend out here in these truly remote places gives me some of the only comfort from the current state of the natural world on our planet. You know, it's hard to know what to do, so my solution is to run off into the wilderness. But escaping isn't enough. There are ways to help the natural world, even from my couch at home. That's one of the reasons I joined Planet Wild and why I'm super excited to be partnered with them for this video. Planet Wild is a community-based crowdfunding organization that funds conservation and restoration projects all across the world. We as a community, with over 20,000 members, fund monthly missions to restore the natural world. Planet Wild then makes great videos about them and actually posts right here on YouTube. These videos show where the money from the community is actually going. I'm actually a member of Planet Wild, and my favorite mission was the Lost Frogs of Ecuador project, where Planet Wild funded 50 days of field expeditions to help find and protect endangered frogs in Ecuador. That is what I'm going to college for, restoration ecology, and to see it being put in action like that is just really inspiring. If you want to join a growing community of people that make a difference in nature, consider joining Planet Wild. You can give whatever amount, big or small, whatever feels right to you. Every dollar counts in protecting nature. The first 100 people to sign up using my code, TOPO3, will get their first month paid for by me. Just scan this QR code or click the link in the description. And the best part is, you'll immediately have an impact in nature, and you'll be able to see the result in less than 30 days here on YouTube. And there's no catch, you can cancel anytime. Thank you so much to Planet Wild. All right, back to the video.
As I made my dinner, it struck me that this used to be a place where people could simply drive up to in their boats, have lunch, and leave. But for me, it was a place I had to earn through a full day of hard hiking. It makes me wonder how the journey to a place changes the perception of it, and the subsequent action of the individual. From this point on, everywhere I walk in this video will be a place boaters used to float over when it was drowned by Lake Powell.
It was kind of a long night, very stormy night, but now I think it's going to be clear for the rest of my time here. And I noticed something this morning that I can't believe I didn't see right away yesterday, but I think it was because I was running around searching for a campsite and it was super windy and I was just worried. So I thought initially that this sediment here was where the previous Lake Powell level would have been, or at least close to it, but no. It's way up there. I didn't realize that the white bathtub line is very visible all around me until last night when I stopped filming. But yeah, it's like 50 feet above my tent here. So I would have been camping under a lot of water in the 80s. You can see it all over the place. There it is right there. Way higher up on the cliffs than I would have thought right at this point. I thought it was gonna be lower. You can see it out there. And you can also see it on the other side. So right now I'm gonna gear up for the day and then I'm gonna head over to Lake Powell to check it out. I don't know how far it's gonna be. And then after that, I'm gonna head up this canyon. I don't know, go up 3-4 miles and see what's up there because like I said, that canyon used to be cut off to me and now it's not. And I'm super excited to go up there. It's kind of funny. I got a really wacky outfit. Sandals and shorts with a bunch of coats on top because I have to walk through this cold water to get to the lake, and it's really windy and cold this morning, so I'm like shivering, but you know I have to get through the water, so hence the sandals and shorts, and just kind of looks goofy, I imagine. A little sandstorm because this is all Lake Powell sediment, and the river is quickly eroding it away, and it has formed this brand new waterfall. Check that out. So that waterfall wasn't there probably 20 or 30 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, because this, like I said, would have been clogged with sediment. But flash floods and just the continuous flow of the river is going to quickly remove a lot of the Lake Powell sediment out of here, kind of return it to what it historically would have looked like. So that's cool. That's a historical waterfall that is, you know, visible for the first time in years. Now that I'm within former Lake Powell, there's an astounding amount of two things. For one, there's just shells everywhere from mussels and clams that were living on these walls. And two, there's just trash everywhere. I mean, Lake Powell boaters just disrespected this place. It's crazy the amount of trash. I've seen golf balls, cans, rags, PVC pipe, all sorts of stuff. And they've also scrawled their names everywhere, all over the place. People just came in and scratched their names. Scratched, I heart this person, I hurt that person. Like, I understand wanting to come hang out in this place. Of course, it's an amazing place. But I think it's just a great example that when a place like this is too easy to access, it just gets disrespected. Hey, they're not going to be littering up here anymore, that's for sure. Just keeps going. Run another corner. I've just arrived at a pretty crazy spot. So when I was looking at this area on Google Earth, I was thinking that Lake Powell would at least be right here. I didn't think there was any way I would get to see what I'm about to see. But up to the left of me is a giant rincon, or an old cut-off riverbed that Lake Powell used to fill, creating this island of sandstone in the middle. And again, no Lake Powell in sight. It is completely dry up there. Check that out. You can see the big bend there, and that giant rock in the middle. It used to be an island, and now it's all exposed. There's actually some pretty huge cliffs. I don't think I'd be able to get up behind it even if I wanted to now. That's crazy. I thought the lake would still be here. It's starting to turn to just straight cliffs. There's not even much of a bank anymore, because this Navajo sandstone layer is just so thick here. I am feeling such a strange feeling right now. It's this feeling that I don't belong here, and that I'm witnessing something that's like secret. You know that feeling when you watched Indiana Jones for the first time as a kid, and seeing him discover those ancient secrets in the desert or in the jungle? That's the feeling I'm getting right now. It's a feeling that I'm getting to witness firsthand this unearthing of an ancient landscape.
At this point, I am farther into this canyon than any of the historical imagery has ever shown to be free of water. On my way back, I will be able to head into this side canyon, which even in 2024 had 2 houseboats parked at it.
Are we serious right now? Like, where the hell is Lake Powell? I am over 1.5 miles from where it said Lake Powell started on my map. This alcove is literally lined with mussels, so the lake had to have been here incredibly recently. Okay, I think I'm just about to the lake because the bottom is now completely sediment and the river is barely cut through any of it. And there's also quicksand like everywhere. I gotta be really careful. sticking to the edges because out where the water is, it's kind of dangerous, it feels like. You can tell this spot here is some quicksand just because the way it acts when you kind of step on it. It just sucks you in. So I gotta make sure to get off that stuff. This stuff over here is much better, nice and hard. All right, here it is. The not so mighty Lake Powell. Definitely not gonna go down there because quicksand city. But there's the water level, and way up there, 165 feet I think, is full pool. Echo! Hey! That was magical, very wondrous. And the crazy thing is I am 2 miles from the full pool line. From where Lake Powell is on my map, I am 2 miles in. The current Lake Powell level is, I think, just about 30 feet above the point where they can't make hydropower anymore, where it can't go through the turbines anymore. And I think it's just about 60 feet above dead pool, where no water would be able to make it through the dam at all. The Grand Canyon would dry up. It would be a catastrophe, really. And so in my lifetime, as we speak, the Colorado River Compact is being rearranged. The states are really fighting about it and not agreeing on anything, and the federal government might have to step in. And Glen Canyon Dam could be decommissioned within my lifetime. Because right now, if we let all of the water from Lake Powell go to Lake Mead, it wouldn't even fill up Lake Mead. So it seems pretty silly for this to even exist, right? And obviously it's very complicated, and that's why those negotiations are happening right now. But within my lifetime, yeah, Lake Powell here, it could go away. There's a high chance that it does. And not only will I be able to come this far, I'll be able to go all the way to the Colorado River. And that's why I wanted to highlight this area for this San Juan Wedge video, because there's thousands of canyons in the San Juan Wedge. I mean, it's an incredibly complex area. There's more canyons there than I could ever hope to see in a lifetime. But this is one that people couldn't have seen 50 years ago that I am now getting to see in this moment, and that's pretty incredible. And it's one of the very, very rare cases where a place is getting more remote and a place is getting more natural in spite of people. I'm gonna head back up the canyon and explore that little side canyon. This is crazy. It's incredible. There are just lizards everywhere. I mean, scurrying all over these rocks. And it's awesome how fast they've recolonized an area that was, previously uninhabitable to them. Okay, I'm now gonna go explore up this side canyon here. I have no idea what's up there. Didn't really check it out on Google Earth because I didn't think I'd be able to make it. Whoa. It's just a giant bowl. It just ends in a pour off. So this cave here would have been completely submerged. The high water is up there. Go see if there's anything in it. I doubt it, and if there was, probably got destroyed by the water. It's wild though, all these trunks here from old cottonwoods from before the lake. This is just such an impressive box canyon. What a dramatic way to end a canyon. Imagine a flash flood event and the water pouring off of that cliff over this probably 50-foot overhang straight into this pool of water. I'm trying to imagine it, but I don't think I can. Sure. Okay, I made it to the back. This is about the level of full pool, Lake Powell. So everything out here would have been underwater. Isn't that wild? Everything below there. Okay, I'm now about back to my campsite, and I'm gonna have some lunch real quick, and then I'm gonna head off into this canyon and just see what's going on in there. I swear, when I'm backpacking, peanut M&Ms are like the best food that's ever been invented. I'll probably only go a couple miles up this canyon because there was way more to do over there than I thought, so I kind of used up my whole day. But I definitely mainly want to see what's on the other side of this giant sandstone fin. Okay, wow, the water is way, way colder coming out of this canyon than it is from the other one. That's kind of interesting. I think it's because this one goes higher up onto this mesa. So this is probably snow melt from the storm last night. The thing is so tall. Reminds me of the Great White Throne in Zion. To kind of illustrate the dichotomy of the Lake Powell boating crowd, up there on a beautiful boulder, somebody pecked in a peace sign. And then after, somebody else shot that peace sign like 50 times and just covered it in bullet holes. I just think it's funny. Like, the gall of some people is immense. So the cool thing about this canyon that I'm walking in is realistically the only entry point is where I just entered, where Lake Powell used to sit. And that's because this canyon cuts way up into a mesa that ends as a box canyon, kind of like the one I was in earlier. There's just a cliff at the end. I think we might have another re-emerging waterfall here. Certainly sounds like it. Oh my, isn't that pretty? Oh God, it's getting a little brushy. This water is insanely cold. It's honestly surprising because I am very warm. It is warm out and my toes are numb. I think I'm gonna call it for this canyon right here. The sun is rapidly setting, and once it gets below the cliff edges, it's gonna pretty much bathe me in a dark shade that is gonna rapidly drop the temp, and I do not wanna be walking in this frigid water when it gets really cold. I'm gonna get back to camp and enjoy an amazing evening, hopefully, and the sky is completely clear. So I'm hoping for some spectacular stars tonight. I'm really excited about that. But I gotta say, the canyon up ahead looks spectacular. And what's crazy is this goes on for over 10 miles. And what's crazy is to reach the end of this canyon, with Lake Powell here, realistically you could say that the minimum distance you'd have to do is about 20 miles of backpacking up this trailless canyon. But now, especially if Lake Powell is completely drained, it's gonna be probably about 40 miles. It's gonna double the distance and the difficulty to get there, to get to the end. And maybe someday I'll do that. Maybe I can recruit Austin to come with me, because that might be one of the most unreachable places in Utah, the end of this canyon here.
As I enjoyed an evening of quiet solitude, I couldn't help but feel glad that nature is taking this canyon back. Even if Lake Powell isn't decommissioned, if it stays anywhere near the level it is at now, many of the side canyons will remain as I witnessed them, silent with the absence of people. Boaters are simply not going to park their multi-ton houseboats on a load of quicksand and walk through 2 miles of mud and brush to get back here where I'm camped. They will just boat somewhere else. As the lake recedes, native plants and animals will quickly reclaim this land, and torrents of water will sweep away the sediment that should have been carried to the Gulf of California long ago. These canyons are literally restoring themselves. The edges of the San Juan Wedge will not only become more inaccessible, but more wild. Maybe one day Glen Canyon will receive the national park designation that it should have received 75 years ago, so it can become less of a party destination and more of a respected natural wilderness among the likes of the Grand Canyon and Zion. And of course, regardless of what happens with Lake Powell, the San Juan Wedge, in its entirety, will continue to be a bastion of silence and harshness that most places in America have lost.
I've decided I'm going to spend my last day here just resting and reading because my legs are super sore and I have some blisters. But rest assured, Grandma, since you're seeing this video on YouTube, it means I made it out just fine. I definitely hope to do a lot more here in the future. Thank you again to Planet Wild for sponsoring this video. So make sure to check out Planet Wild by clicking on this video right here. All right, see you guys.